On Labor Day weekend is almost here, and that means the end of summer vacation and back to school. But before everyone walks into the classroom, there's another deadline looming, August 31st. That's the date teachers need to decide if they will remain in their union or opt out. Both organized labor and pro-business groups are lobbying teachers in what many say is the first real litmus test of the state's right to work law. I want to come to you first, Ingrid, because it's interesting in this campaign really led by the Mackinac Center saying we want to make sure teachers are informed that they have this option to opt out on August 31st. The MEA came back and said that's been there for a long time. That's not news to teachers. How much of this is about giving teachers options and how much of it is just politics?
Well, I think the MEA is saying that teachers should have known about this August opt-out window, but the truth is a lot of teachers didn't know about that. And last year, the first year that some teachers were able to exercise their right to work rights, they didn't realize they only had that limited window, and of course the MEA wasn't reminding teachers of that.
Which they say, what organization reminds people that they can
leave?
Well, no,
right.
That's true. But at the same time, the teachers that did try to leave last year, even wrote letters to MEA administrators saying they wanted out, say in July of last year. It's been a real battle for them, and the ones that didn't pay their dues because they thought they were out, the MEA went after their credit ultimately. So I think we'll see quite a few more teachers exercising that right this month. Don't really have a good feel for how many, but I think it's about 60% of teachers are now under contract subject to right to work. So there's a lot more that have that option this year than even last year.
But even without the opt-out, the MEA has been facing this issue of teachers not paying dues because they can't take those dues directly from their paychecks anymore.
Right.
And that's really hit them in their coffers.
Well, and that's what's behind this, really. I mean, this is not about freedom to choose what organization you belong to and the kind of things that we've heard from the Republican legislature. It's about knocking the legs out from under a reliable democratic supporting institution, and so taking that money, taking the ability away from them to get their dues out of people's checks, giving people the option to not belong, even though they would end up having the same protections as the people who are paying. That's what's behind this. This is about politics. This is about trying to solidify Republican strength, particularly fundraising strength in Michigan. And so now you see the MEA having to fight that battle.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I think that's true politically, but there are also a lot of teachers that just don't want to be in the union. They don't like a lot of the political work that the union does. They don't agree with that, and they'd really just assume not pay those $1,000 dues every year. And I think they should have that opportunity. I mean, one of the biggest criticisms I hear when I write about this issue from teachers is they don't appreciate that these people who opt out of the union can still benefit from
freeloading.
Well, but under Michigan law, which is a separate law from right to work, teachers cannot represent themselves under Michigan law, and that's something that probably should change because that fairness issue makes sense to me. But right now, a teacher who opts out is still represented by the union. They don't have an option.
How important is this fight within the larger context of union membership in the state? We have UAW contracts coming up for renewal next year. I mean, if we see this mass exodus of teachers from the MEA, is that an alarm bell that goes off for other unions?
I think it would be. I mean, I don't expect to see that. I think most teachers, even if they have problems with their union, would rather be members than not. And so I don't expect to see a bunch of people leaving. But I think all unions in the state, because of this the new reality of right to work, have more of a sell job to do. Right? They have to justify to their members why they ought to be members, and I'm not sure that's such a bad thing. I mean, I think I
think it's a good thing.
That's right. They ought to have to show what benefits people get. I happen to think there are a lot of benefits that people get from union membership, and if you certainly if you go back in history to before teachers and other kinds of public sector workers in particular were unionized, it was pretty bleak, you know, in terms of their benefits, in terms of their retirements, and so the unions do play an important role, and now they've got to sell that. But yeah, you would if you had a mass exodus of teachers from the union, it would absolutely sound alarm bells in other unions about people maybe rethinking that.
I wonder if this potentially could backfire on some of the pro-business groups who are pushing for this opt-out, and that it could make people think, well, why is it so important to you that I'm not a part of a union? And maybe I need to really look at what this union is doing for me, and it really does force unions to make that case for why membership is important. Could we see that kind of backlash?
I think, let's say, the Mackinac Center has led the biggest effort to just get the word out to teachers. I wouldn't say they're trying to encourage teachers to opt out, but
the teachers might disagree with that.
Well, but there's not a lot of information coming from anywhere else to help teachers know how. It's not necessarily obvious. A lot of teachers just don't know where to go. But the MEA is definitely trying to, scare might be too strong a word, but teachers that do go to the MEA saying, hey, how do we do this? They're given this form from the MEA, 2-page form checklist that teachers don't have to sign to opt out, but they're being told that they do from the MEA. Basically, it's a list of 25 benefits that they're giving up by leaving the union. So the MEA is really trying to make teachers think about leaving before they do.
Well, they should. I mean, they should. There's no question that there are benefits that accrue to teachers because
but if
of
teachers
union
leave, they
membership.
could always join again if they really feel like they're losing out.
They could, but the issue is the financial support for the union to provide those protections gets eroded when when people leave.
Well, I think it goes back to the MEA is going to have to do a better job selling to teachers what it does versus just trying to scare people into not leaving. That's not a really good strategy.
Come August 31st, we'll have a sense of, or shortly thereafter, we'll have a sense of who's made maybe the stronger case.
Yeah.